on another live stream. We are going to go ahead and read some more of our Running Man. I want to get you guys through this so we can find out what happens. So, right now we're just going to read. And if you notice, we did a little work. All my Stephen Kings are up there. I'm going to add to them. I want more. I want a lot more. This is only a portion of what he's written. Only one book is not by him, and that's Michael Crichton, and that's Prey. Really good one. And then we cleared this off, and he decorated it. I put little animals up there. He did it. My husband did amazing, I'm telling you. He knows how to make things look perfect. So, ready? Minus 040 and counting. They traveled 5 miles before people began running out onto their lawns to watch them pass. Many had cameras, and Richards relaxed. They were shooting at the air caps at that roadblock, she said quietly. It was a mistake. That's what it was, a mistake. If that maggot was aiming for an air cap, then he put out the windshield. When he put out the windshield, there must have been a sight on that pistol 3 feet high. It was a mistake! They were entering a residential district of which Richards assumed was Rockland. Summer homes, dirt roads leading down to beachfront cottages. Breeze Inn, private road. Just me and Patty. Keep out. Elizabeth's Rest. Trespassers will be shot. Cloud high. 5,000 volts. Set a spell. Guard dogs on patrol. Unhealthy eyes and avid faces peering at them from behind trees like Cheshire cats. The blare of battery-powered freebies came through the shattered windshield. A crazy, wild air of carnival about everything. Let me pause here. There we go. These people, Richard said, only want to see someone bleed. The more, the better. They would just assume it was both of us. Can you believe that? No. Then I salute you. An older man with silvery barbershop hair, wearing Madras shorts that came down over his knees, ran out to the edge of the road. He was carrying a huge camera with a Cobra-like telephoto lens. He began snapping pictures wildly, bending and dipping. His legs were fish belly white. Richards burst into a sudden bray of laughter that made Amelia jump. What? He's still got the lens cover on, Richard said. But the laughter overcame him. Cars crowded the shoulders as they topped a long, slowly rising hill and began to descend toward the clustered town of Rockland itself. Perhaps it had once been the picturesque seacoast fishing village, full of Winslow Homer men in yellow rain slickers who went out in small boats to trap the willy lobster. If so, it was long gone. There was a huge shopping center on either side of the road, a main street strip of honky-tonks, bars, and auto slot emporiums. There were neat, middle-class homes overlooking the main drag from the heights, and a growing slum looking up from the rancid edge of the water. The sea at the horizon was yet unchanged. It glittered blue and ageless, full of dancing points and nets of light in the late afternoon sun. They began the descent, and there were 2 police cars parked across the road. The blue lights flicked jaggedly, crazy and out of sync with each other. Parked at an angle on the left embankment was an armored car with a short, stubby cannon barrel tracking them. You're done, she said softly, almost regretfully. Do I have to die too? Stop 50 yards from the roadblock and do your stuff, Richard said. He slid down the seat. A nervous tic stitched his face. She stopped and opened the car door, but did not lean out. The air was dead silent. A hush falls over the crowd, Richard thought ironically. I'm scared, she said. Please, I'm so scared. They won't shoot you, he said. There are too many people. You can't kill hostages unless no one is watching. Those are the rules of the game. She looked at him for a moment, and he suddenly wished they could have a cup of coffee together. He would listen carefully to her conversation and stir real cream into his hot drink. Her treat, of course. Then they could discuss the possibilities of social iniquity. The way your socks always fell down when you're wearing rubber boots. And the importance of being earnest. Go on, Mrs. Williams, he said with soft, tense mockery. The eyes of the world are upon you. She leaned out. 6 police cars and another armored van had pulled up 30 feet behind them, blocking their retreat, he thought. Now the only way out is straight up to heaven. Minus 039 and counting. My name is Amelia Williams. Benjamin Richards is holding me hostage. If you don't give us safe conduct, he says he will kill me. Silence for a moment, so complete that Richards could hear the faraway honk of some distant yacht's air horn. Then a sexual blaring amplified, We want to talk to Ben Richards. No, Richards said swiftly. He says he won't. Come out of the car, madam. He'll kill me, she cried wildly. Don't you listen? Some men almost killed us back there. He says you don't care who you kill. My God, is he right? I gotta lean back a little bit. So, I'm gonna pull my chair up here and put my feet up, lean my back back, and we're gonna read. We're just gonna be casual, read, and chill. Boop. Bun up in my hair. A hoarse voice in the crowd yelled, Let her through! Come out of the car, we'll shoot! Let her through! Let her through! The crowd had taken up the chant like eager fans at a kill ball match. Come out! The crowd drowned it out. From somewhere, a rock flew, a police car windshield starred into a matrix of cracks. There was suddenly a rev of motors, and the 2 cruisers began to pull apart, opening a narrow slot of pavement. The crowd cheered happily and then fell silent, waiting for the next act. All civilians, leave the area, the bullhorn chanted. There may be shooting. All civilians, leave the area, or you may be charged with obstruction and unlawful assembly. The penalty for obstruction and unlawful assembly is 10 years in the state penitentiary, or a fine of $10,000, or both. Clear the area. Clear the area. Yeah, so no one will see you shoot the girl, the hysterical voice yelled. Screw all pigs. The crowd didn't move. A yellow and black newsy mobile had pulled up with a flashy screech. 2 men jumped out and began setting up a camera. Tristan, please bring her in. 2 cops rushed over, and there was a short, savage scuffle for the possession of the camera. Then one of the cops yanked it free, picked it up by the tripod, and smashed it on the road. One of the newsmen tried to reach the cop that had done it and was clubbed. A small boy darted out of the crowd and fired a rock at the back of the cop's head. Blood splattered the road as the cop fell over. A half dozen more descended on the boy, bearing him off. Incredibly, small and savage fistfights had begun on the sidelines between the well-dressed townfolk and the rattier slum dwellers. A woman in a ripped and faded house dress suddenly descended on a plump matron and began to pull her hair. Get down, Phoebe. Down. Excuse you. Take that from her, please. Good Lord. They fell heavily to the road and began to roll on the macadam, kicking and screaming. My God, Amelia said sickly. What's happening? Richard asked. He dared look no higher than the clock on the dashboard. Fights. Police hitting people. Someone broke a newsie's camera. Give up, Richards. Come out. Drive on, Richard said softly. The air car jerked forward erratically. They'll shoot for the air caps, she said. They'll wait until you have to come out. They won't, Richard said. Why? They're too dumb. They didn't. They proceeded slowly past the ranked police cars and the bug-eyed spectators. They had split themselves into two groups of unconscious segregation. On one side of the road were the middle and upper-class citizens, the ladies who had their hair done at the beauty parlor, the men who wore arrow shorts and loafers, fellows wearing coveralls with company names on the back, and their own names stitched in gold thread over the breast pocket. Women like Amelia Williams herself, dressed for the market and the shops. Their faces were different in all ways, but similar in one. They looked oddly incomplete, like pictures with holes for eyes, or a jigsaw puzzle with a minor piece missing. It was a lack of desperation, Richards thought. No wolves howled in their bellies. Their minds were not filled with rotted, crazed dreams or mad hopes. These people were on the right side of the road, the side that faced the combination marina and country club they were just passing. On the other side, the left, were the poor people, red noses with burst veins, flattened, sagging breasts, stringy hair, white socks, cold sores, pimples, the blank and hanging mouths of idiocy. The police were deployed more heavily here, and more were coming all the time. Richards was not surprised at the swiftness and the heaviness of their crunch, despite the suddenness of his appearance. Even here, in Boondocks, USA, the club and the gun were kept near to hand. The dogs were kept hungry in the kennel. The poor break into summer cottages closed for autumn and winter. The poor crash supermarkets in sub-teen gangs. The poor had been known to soap badly spelled obscenities on shop windows. The poor always have itchy assholes, and the sight of what the heck is that word? The new guide? New God? Yeah, new guide. Nougahide. That's what the word is. And chrome and $200 suits and fat bellies have been known to make the mouths of the poor, fill with angry spit. And the poor must have their Jack Johnson, their Muhammad Ali, their Clyde Barrow. They stood and watched. Here on the right, folks, we have the summer people, Richards thought, fat and sloppy and heavy with armor. On the left, weighing it at only 130, but a scrappy contender with a mean rolling eyeball, we have hungry honkies. Theirs are the politics of starvation. They'd roll Christ himself for a pound of salami. Polarization comes to West Sticksville. Watch out for these two contenders, though. They don't stay in the ring. They have a tendency to fight in the $10 seats. Can we find a goat to hang up for both of them? Slowly, rolling at 30, Ben Richards passed between them. Minus 038, and counting. An hour passed. It was 4 o'clock. Shadows crawled across the road. Give me a second. I just hit my thing here. Up, 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 up. I lost my slipper. All right, hold on. My husband sent me something and I want to read it. Let's see. Ooh, banana bread with cream cheese in the center. That does look yummy. All right, shall we continue? I gotta make sure I don't hit my leg of my desk or it'll fall. I know I have this big desk over here, and then I use the small one because I can. We're gonna get nice and comfy here. So if you can get something to drink, something to snack on, be my guest. Minus 038 and counting. An hour passed. It was 4 o'clock. Shadows crawled across the road. Richards, slumped down below eye level in his seat, floated in and out of consciousness effortlessly. He had clumsily pulled his shirt out of his pants to look at the new wound. The bullet had dug a deep and ugly canal in his side that had bled a great deal. The blood had clotted, but grudgingly. When he had to move quickly again, the wound would rip open and bleed a great deal more. Didn't matter. They were going to blow him up. In the face of this massive armory, his plan was a joke. He would go ahead with it, fill in the blanks until there was an accident and the air car was blown into bent bolts and shards of metal. A terrible accident. The trooper had been suspended pending full investigation. Regret the loss of innocent life. All this buried in the little newsy of the day. Between the stock market report and the Pope's latest announcement. All thump. Okay. But it was only reflex. He had become increasingly worried. I almost skipped a page. Sorry about that. He became increasingly worried about Amelia Williams, whose big mistake had been picking Wednesday morning to do her marketing. There are tanks out there, she said suddenly. Her voice was light, chatty, hysterical. Can you imagine it? Can you? She began to cry. Richards waited. Finally, he said, What town are we in? What, Winterport, a sign said. Oh, I can't wait for them to do it. I can't. Okay, he said. She blinked slowly, giving an infinitesimal shake of her head, as if to clear it. What? Stop. Get out. But they'll kill you. Yes, but there won't be any blood. You won't see any blood. They got enough firepower out there to vaporize me and the car, too. You're lying. You'll kill me. The gun had been dangling between his knees. He dropped it to the floor. It clung harmlessly to the rubber floor mat. I want some pot, she said mindlessly. Oh, God, I want to be high. Why didn't you wait for the next car? Jesus. Richards began to laugh. He laughed in wheezy, shallow, crusted heaves that still hurt his side. He closed his eyes and laughed until tears oozed out from under his lids. It's cold in here, with a broken windshield, she said irrelevantly. Turn on the heater. Her face was a pale blotch in the shadows of the late afternoon. 037 and counting. We're in Derry, she said. The streets were... What do you have? Okay, you have a bottle. The streets were black with people. They hung over roof ledges and sat on balconies and verandas from which the summer furniture had been removed. They ate sandwiches and fried chicken from greasy buckets. Are there jetport signs? Yes, I'm following them. They'll just close the gates. I'll just threaten to kill you again if they do. Are you going to skyjack a plane? I'm going to try. You can't. I'm sure you're right. They made a right, then a left. Bullhorns exhorted the crowd monotonously, oh my lord, monotonously, to move back to dispense. Is she really your wife, that woman in the picture? Yes, her name is Sheila. Our baby Kathy is 1.5 years old. She had the flu. Maybe she's better now. That's how I got into this. A helicopter buzzed them, leaving a huge arachnid shadow on the road ahead. A glossy, amplified voice exhorted Richards to let the woman go. When it was gone, and they could speak again, she said, "Your wife looks like a little tramp. She could take better care of herself." "The picture was distorted," Richard said tonelessly. "They would do that?" "They would do that." "The jet port. We're coming up to it." "I can't see. Wait. Open, but blocked? A tank. It's pointing its shooter at us." "Drive to within 30 feet of it and stop." The car crawled slowly down the 4-lane access road between the parked police cars, between the ceaseless scream and babble of the crowd. A sign loomed over them. Voight Airfield. The woman could see an electrified cyclone fence which crossed a marshy, worthless sort of field on both sides of the road. Straight ahead was a combination information booth and check-in point on a traffic island. Beyond that was a main gate blocked by an A-62 tank capable of firing 1/4 megaton shells from its cannon. Farther on, a confusion of roads and parking lots, all tending toward the complex jet line terminals that blocked the runways from view. A huge control tower bulked over everything, like an H.G. Wells Martian. The westering sun glaring off its polarized bank of windows and turning them to fire. Employees and passengers alike had crowded down the nearest parking lot where they were being held back by more police. There was a pulsing heavy whine in their ears, and Amelia saw a steel gray Lockheed GA General Atomics Superbird rising into a flat, powerful climb from one of the runways behind the main buildings. "Richards!" She jumped and looked at him, frightened. He waved his hand at her nonchalantly. "It's all right, Ma. I'm only dying." "You're not allowed inside," the huge, amplified voice admonished him. "Let the woman go. Step out." "What now?" she asked. "It's a standoff. They'll just wait until—" "Let's push them a little further," Richard said. "They'll bluff along a little more. Lean out. Tell them I'm hurt and half crazy. Tell them I want to give up to the airline police." "You want to do what?" "The airline police are neither state enforcement nor federal. They've been international ever since the UN Treaty of 1995. There used to be a story that if you gave up to them, you'd get amnesty. Sort of like landing on free parking in Monopoly. Full of shit, of course. They turn you over to the hunters, and the hunters drag you out and and the hunters drag you out in back of a barn." She winced. "But maybe you'll think I believe it. Maybe they'll think I believe it, or that I've fooled myself into believing it. Go ahead and tell them." She leaned out, and Richard tensed. If there was going to be an unfortunate accident, which would remove Amelia from the picture, it would probably happen now. Her head and upper body were clearly and cleanly exposed to 1,000 guns. One squeeze on one trigger, and the entire farce would come to a quick end. "Ben Richards wants to give up to the airline police," she cried. He's shot in 2 places." She threw a terrified glance over her shoulder, and her voice broke, high and clear in a sudden silence the diminishing jet had left. "He's been out of his mind half the time, and God, I'm so frightened. Please, please, please!" The cameras were recording it all, sending it on a live feed that would be broadcast all over North America and half the world in a matter of minutes. That was good. That was fine. Richard felt tension stiffen his limbs again, and he knew he was beginning to hope. Silence for a moment. There was a conference going on behind the checkpoint booth. "Very good," Richard said softly. She looked at him. "Do you think it's hard to sound frightened? We're not in this together, whatever you think." I only want you to go away. Richards noticed for the first time how perfect her breasts were beneath the blood-stained black and green blouse. How perfect and how precious. There was a sudden grind roar, and she screamed aloud. It's the tank! It's the tank, he said. It's okay. Just the tank. It's moving, she said. They're going to let us in. Richards, you will proceed to lot 16. Airline police will be waiting there to take you into custody. All right, he said thinly. Drive on. When he got to a half a mile inside the gate, when we get to a half a mile inside the gate, when you stop, you're going to get me killed, she said hopelessly. All I need to do is use the bathroom and you're going to get me killed. The air car lifted 4 inches and hummed smoothly forward. Richards crouched going through the gate, anticipating a possible ambush, but there was none. The smooth black top curved satedly towards the main buildings. A sign with a pointing arrow informed them that there was a way to lots 16 through 20. Oh, that this was the way. Here the police are standing and kneeling behind yellow barricades. Richards knew that at the slightest suspicious move, they would tear the air car apart. Now stop, he said. And she did. The reaction was instantaneous. Richards, move immediately to lot 16. Tell them that I want a bullhorn, Richard said softly to her. They're going to leave one in the road 20 yards up. I want to talk to them. She cried his message and then waited. A moment later, a man in a blue uniform trotted out into the road and laid an electrical bullhorn down. He stood there for a moment, perhaps savoring the realization that he was going to be seen by 500 million people, and then withdrew to the barricaded anonymity. Anonymity. I can't say that word. Anonymity. Okay? Yeah. Good Lord. If I can figure out where I was. Oh, and the anonymity again. So anonymous. Go ahead, he told her. They crept up to the bullhorn, and when the driver's side door was even with it, she opened the door and pulled it in. It was red and white, the letters G and A embossed over a thunderbolt were on the side. Okay, he said. How far are we from the main building? She squinted. A quarter of a mile, I guess. How far are we from lot 16? Half that. Good. That's good. Yeah. He realized he was compulsively biting his lips and tried to make himself stop. His heart hurt. His entire body ached from adrenaline. Keep driving. Go up to the entrance of lot 16 and then stop. Then what? He smiled tightly and unhappy. That, he said, is going to be the site of Richard's last stand. We're going to read a couple more, so don't worry. Minus 036 and counting. When she stopped the car at the entrance of the parking lot, the reaction was quick and immediate. Keep moving, the bullhorns prodded. The airline police are inside, as specified. Richards raised his own bullhorn for the first time. 10 minutes, he said. I have to think. Silence again. Don't you realize you're pushing them to do it? She asked him in a strange, controlled voice. He uttered a weird, squeezed giggle and sounded like steam under high pressure, especially from a teapot. You know, I'm getting set to screw them. They don't know how. You can't, she said. Don't you see that yet? Maybe I can, he said. Minus 035 and counting. We're getting interesting. Listen, when the games first started, people said they were the world's greatest entertainment because there had never been anything like them. But nothing's that original. There were gladiators in Rome who did the same thing. And there's another game too, poker. In poker, the highest hand is a royal straight flush in spades. and the toughest kid in poker of blah, blah, blah. The toughest kind of poker is 5-card stud. 4 cards up on the table and 1 in the hole. For nickels and dimes, anyone can stay in the game. It costs you maybe a half a buck to see the other guy's card. But when you push the stakes up, the whole card starts to look bigger and bigger. After a dozen rounds of betting, with your life savings and car and house on the line, that whole can't stand, that whole card, oh my God, the whole card stands taller than Mount Everest. The running man is like that. Only I'm not supposed to have any money to bet with. They've got the men and the firepower and the time. We're playing with their cards and their chips are in their casino. When I'm caught, I'm supposed to fold, but maybe I stack the deck a bit. I call the newsy line in Rockland. The newsy, that's my 10 of spades. They had to give a safe conduct because everyone was watching. There was no chances for neat disposal after the first roadblock. It's funny too, because it's a freebie that gives the network that clout that it has. If you see it on the freebie, it must be true. So if the whole country saw police murder a hostage, a well-to-do middle-class female hostage. I like this. This is funny. Do. I lost my place. If you see it on the freebie, it must be true. So if the whole country saw the man murdered the police murdered my hostage, a well-to-do middle-class female hostage, they would have to believe it. They can't risk it. The system is laboring under too much suspension of belief now. Funny, huh? My people are here. There's been trouble on the road already. If the troopers and the hunters turn all their guns on us, something nasty might happen. A man told me to stay near my own people. We are more right than he knew. One of the reasons they've been handling me with the kid gloves on is because my people are here. My people, they're the Jack of Spades. The queen, the lady in the affair is you. I'm the king, the black man with the sword. These are my up cards. The media, the possibility of real trouble. You, me, together they're nothing. A pair will take them. Without the ace of spades, it's junk. With the ace, it's unbeatable. He suddenly picked up her handbag, an imitation alligator skin clutch purse with a small silver chain. He stuffed it into his coat pocket where it bulged prominently. I haven't got the ace, he said softly. With a little more, you have a whole card. No one can't see. A whole card, one they can't see. So I'm going to run a bluff. You don't have a chance, she said hollowly. I hit it again. What can you do with my bag? Shoot them with a lipstick? I think that they've been playing a crooked game so long that oh my God, crooked game so long that they'll fold. I think they are yellow straight from back to belly. Richards, 10 minutes are up. Richards, put the bullhorn to his lips. Minus 034 and counting. And rolled across the flat. His voice boomed and rolled across the flat Jetport acres. Police waited tensely. The crowd shuffled. I am carrying 12 pounds of dynamite impact plastic explosive in my coat pocket. The variety they call Black Irish. 12 pounds is enough to take out everything and everyone within a third of a mile, and probably enough to explode the Jetport fuel storage tanks. If you don't follow my instructions to the letter, I'll blow you all to hell. A General Atomics imploder imploder ring is supposed to have it pulled out. One jiggle, and you can all put your heads between your legs and kiss your asses goodbye. There were screams from the crowd, followed by a sudden tide-like movement. The police at the barricade suddenly found they had no one to hold back. Men and women were leaning across the roads and fields, streaming out of the gates and scaling the cyclone fence around the jetport. Their faces were blank and avid with panic. The police shuffled uneasily. On one face did Amelia Williams see disbelief. "Richards!" The huge voice boomed. "That's a lie! Come out!" "I am coming out," he boomed back. "But before I do, let me give you your marching orders. I want to fully fueled and ready to fly with a skeleton crew. This jet will be the Lockheed GA or a Delta Supersonic. The range must be at least 2,000 miles. This will be ready in 90 minutes.